Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, your weekly discussion of motoring news. This is episode 589 on Tuesday, the 30th of July, 2024. Hello, I'm Andrew.
And I'm not Alan, I am Daniel. Alan is somewhere in America, so I'm filling in. This week we will be seeing how car companies are struggling to make money. In new car news, we note that you'd better have deep pockets if you want the first editions of one brand's refreshed cars, although others may also have that problem as well. And in points of interest, we ignore all of the arguing and just enjoy a car show. And what beautiful weather we've had this week as well.
It's so exceptional that I think we can comment about it and everybody will be in agreement. Right, do you want to take us on to the Department for Transport, who wish to provide certainty?
Yeah, so DFT has confirmed, in inverted commas, the ban on sale of new fossil fuel cars will actually go ahead from 2030. Now, this one has been going on for years and years and years, hasn't it? It was going to be 2030, then it was going to be 2035, maybe not, who knows? Anyway, the DFT has said that it will be for 2030.
No.
Although there wasn't any mention of this in the King's speech.
So how soon they get to it, who knows?
Exactly.
But what is also interesting in this is there is no mention of vans, and there is a lot of companies getting really twitchy about vans because the uptake of zero emission vehicle vans is roughly 2 to 4%, which is not a lot, and is nowhere near the percentages they are supposed to be towards. But also included on that, just on the car side of things, there is also no mention or clarification on what is going to happen with mild and plug-in hybrid vehicles.
And also, as well, there's nothing on lorries as well.
No. This providing certainty needs to actually be providing clarity on an awful lot of points. As soon as we see anything come out about it, this will obviously be splashed over all of the car social medias, but we will bring it to you as well.
Yeah. There's a link in here from Fleet News, but it is worth just flagging up. The DFT quoting here from the article, the DFT told Fleet News that the government is committed to delivering greener transport by supporting the transition to electric vehicles, but failed to respond to any questions when asked specifically about the 2030 deadline also being reinstated for the sale of new ICE vans. Yeah, as you kind of implied, yes, they have provided certainty for cars.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I'm sure they'll tell us soon.
Good luck working out your own plan type thing, lads.
Yeah, with everything else they've got to tell us soon about.
Yeah, I mean, the government have got quite a few things on their plate. I know that we're not going to discuss this week as well, but it's quite interesting about this Stonehenge tunnel being axed. But you'll talk about that next week when hopefully Alan will be back.
Yep, he is due to be back, yes. Because,
of course, the Stonehenge tunnel is vital to him in America, obviously.
Well, he is the Stonehenge tunnel reporter for the show, obviously.
Yeah.
Being based in America for the last 2 years. Okay, I'm going to take us on to Stellantis now, and they have announced their first half profits, which have halved for 2024. Yeah, this has been a rough first 6 months for them. Their profits were 5.6 billion euros, which is down on the 10.9 billion euros they made in the first half of 2023. They said that their operating income also fell 40%, which they put a lot of that onto a dip in North America, and their free cash flow fell from 8.7 billion down to just 392 million euros again. Wow, that's huge, that bit. But they are trying to say that this is not a typical time. They have been hit by the fact that they are just in the process of refreshing something like 20-odd models across the brands. They have what is quoted here in an Autocar article that's linked in the show notes, unspecified management actions that have been enacted with a focus on Maserati sales. We'll get to that later.
Lovely corporate speak there.
Yes, wonderful. as well as, again, reiterating that they've had poor performance in North America and they are struggling in Europe. Don't forget they are about to bring Leap Motor over to Europe, although they've already brought a ship full of their vehicles that will go out soon. They have talked about that they are prepared to, or Tavares is prepared to cull one or two brands if they are, when investigated, not profitable. Now, let's not forget, only 3 years ago, he said everybody had 10 years to sort this out. Time moves fast in Stellantis. When someone walks around with a big hammer with cut on it, who's in charge? But he specifically goes on to mention the UK as well.
Yeah.
He says, connecting with what Daniel was just saying, he goes on to talk about the zero emission vehicle mandate, how it's really difficult, and he's called it a specific problem. And he said that this needs fixing. They're in intensive and productive dialogue, again quoting, but this time from an AOM Online article that's in the show notes. But so far, we don't have the answers we need, or need or want. I think there might be two different matters. But one of his points that he is trying to raise is the fact that because they have two plants in the UK and they are being converted or have been converted to making EVs, they should get more slack on the percentage of sales required. He doesn't feel that that's fair. I mean, it depends on, I suppose, where these EVs end up, because that will be linked to sales, and I'm not sure how many end up in the UK.
Yeah.
Also, a third link to this story will be from the Autopian, as they run through all the brands from Stellantis and try and work out which ones might be killed, which ones look likely, and those that there's no chance that Stellantis are ever going to get rid of them. It's a good guesstimate. I think he's pretty accurate. Do click on the link in the show notes there. But shall we stick with companies not doing as well as people are hoping?
Indeed. There's a link in the show notes to this piece, but there's a story here from Reuters. The headline outlines it pretty well, actually. Ford profit disappoints, stock falls by 11% as quality issues dog automakers. Earlier this week, Ford reported a dip in its second quarter profits, and it sent the shares going down by 11%.
Which are pretty horrific.
Part of that is down to warranty expenses going up $800 million in Q2 compared with the previous quarter. So that's quite a jump, isn't there? And that was down to older vehicles launched in 2021 or earlier needing repairs.
I was really shocked at that. Not the figure so much. I mean, although it was horrific. But we're in 2024, or even back in 2021, and a major car maker like Ford is producing vehicles that are not up to standard, and they're having to fix them.
Repairing 3 years later.
Yeah, they're having to fix them 3 years later. And they talk about, it's in this article here because there's quite a bit about how shareholders are unhappy with Ford's progress and how they're doing it, to the point where this morning I happened to stumble across a legal firm in the US is looking for investors to see whether there is a case to be brought, a class action case against the Ford directors about how they are not doing well enough for their investors. This is how cross people are becoming with Ford, because they feel like they're hearing the same things over and over again.
Yeah.
But they're talking about in here, oh yeah, well we're having to go back and make sure that our internal combustion engine division is making decent enough quality cars. And you think, what have you been doing? What were you doing before?
And related to this story as well, also in this piece, it is worth noting that Ford recorded a $1.1 billion loss for its EV division in Q2, so that's on top of a $1.3 billion loss from Q1, and it's expecting that particular arm of Ford to lose $5.5 billion this year. It's quite a hefty loss.
Yeah, that covers the electric vehicles and software, that side of things. That's an eye-watering amount of money. I don't care who you are.
Yes.
That's too much money to be losing.
Yeah.
So we will keep an eye on that because there is a lot of noise about investors being really very unhappy. There will also be linked a Jalopnik article that goes on to explain why the warranty costs went up so much and dig into it and actually not pull any punches on it either, which is good to see.
Do you want to take us to Wales now, Andrew?
I will. In weather like this, absolutely. But we might find that in some roads where we were previously doing 20 mile an hour, soon we will be allowed to do 30 mile an hour, as the Welsh Government have set aside £5 million because they have agreed that some of the roads that were covered in the blanket 20 mile an hour new speed limit for urban areas was not perhaps the best in all areas that have been considered urban, and they will allow councils to come back and apply for stretches of road or certain roads to be changed back to 30 mile an hour if they feel that 20 is not appropriate. I know, for example, near my folks' home in North Wales, there was one road that got changed to 20 that had a house at the top, then it went down a hill, and there was not another house until you got down to the bottom about 1.5 miles away, but that was deemed to need to be a 20 mile an hour road. There are areas where people have just looked on a spreadsheet. The thing that's frustrating is that the politicians were warned of this. They've rushed it through, and now, on top of what it cost in the first place, it's going to cost again. And also, as a reminder, when this starts to go into effect, and there's no date on when this is beginning to take effect yet, on this Wales Online article that's linked in the show notes. But when it does start to take effect, you must remember to not just trust your sat-nav, certainly for some time, because as the sat-nav makers told us when it all changed to 20, don't trust us for a while until we update, because they were waiting for information from the councils as well. This is going to be a constant one where you need to stay frosty. If you're in Wales, look at the road sign, pay attention to that. Do you want to take us to Spain then?
I do indeed. The Spaniards have the stories from a website called theMayor.eu, which I've never heard of. I don't know if you have either.
So we always would link to it, Dan. There's no problem.
Yes. So this is quite clever in theory, because Spain is aiming to outsmart drivers braking ahead of speed cameras. They're going over the speed limit. They'll hit the brakes, go down to the speed limit, and then go back up again by putting some sensors on the roads, and it'll be anywhere before the speed camera or after it. This article, again, from the Mayor.eu, our favourite Spanish news source, says it could be 1 kilometre in distance.
Yeah, it's not clear because it's a bit light on details, as one might expect from a non-technical website. But it's not clear on whether they are triggered by the fact that someone is braking or whether they're accelerating or whether it is basically another speed camera that goes, oh, well, you were too fast here and here. That means you're only doing it for the very well-known speed camera.
Yes.
That needs to be considered, because if it is just a camera that goes, oh, we saw a brake light go on, therefore you must be speeding. Aha, we've got you. Yeah. And that's not going to be true in all cases, and that would be very difficult to prove.
Yeah, it's worth noting this started out as a trial in Navarra, and then it expanded to the Basque region of the country. Again, this article doesn't say how many of these sensors were put in during these trials, and the idea is it's going to be rolled out, but again, no further details about the rollout of it. It's worth saying that if drivers are caught by it, they can be fined up to €600 and have 6 points on their licence.
Yeah, the idea is good, because the idea is if you're just slowing down for the camera, then you're not getting on board with the idea of not driving too fast for the road and the conditions, or what is deemed too fast for the road and the conditions. And therefore, you're not really taking safety in mind. That's the idea behind it. The execution, we don't know.
Clever in theory. Wait and see whether or not how it works out in practice, I suppose. one to keep an eye on.
But I expect to see it soon in the UK now. Someone else has done it. Right, that is the end of the first part of the show, and that means it is Guilt Minute. And that's the quick break in the show where we ask for a tad of financial support to keep the lights on and the hosting running. If you feel that the Motoring Podcast is worth a small consideration every month, then you can become a patron. Different levels of patron include different levels of commitment from us to you, including being able to watch the show recorded live. We also have a small range of merchandise in our spring store, from stickers to mugs and t-shirts. If you don't have any spare cash, and we completely understand, then you can help us by following for free from a podcast player to receive every show as they're released, and by liking and rating the show in whatever way your podcast supplier lets you. If you've done all that, and some of you do, so thank you very much, and we know that you do, then the last thing you can do is to recommend us to your friends or colleagues. Okay, new car news, and I'm going to start with the Kia EV3. We now have pricing and specifications for this. We talked about it a month or two ago, and it is the family size, not large family, but the sort of medium-sized EV in the range, the new range that's coming from Kia, where the price will start from $32,995, which gives a 267 miles range, and that's on the Air trim level.
Yep.
There is also, if we go up one, and that's the Air trim level with the 58.3 kilowatt hour battery. If you go up to the Air with the 81.4 kilowatt hour battery there, which is $35,995, then you get up to 372 miles range on a single charge. When you then move up in specifications to the GT lines, which are a bit posher, and they have larger wheels and tyres, your range just drops down a bit by 25 miles. In fact, you're looking at 347 miles. But the top of the range GT Line S will cost, and that's with a heat pump fitted as well, by the way, that will cost $42,995. As I said, when we first talked about this car, I think it looks cracking. It's aiming price-wise and looks and size smack bang at the Volvo EX30, which is having a tough time of it at the moment. I think they will sell bucket loads of these. I think as many as they can bring over, they will sell. And the order books are going to open from Thursday, the 1st of August, or Thursday this week, if you're listening really sharpishly after I release the show.
Hopefully release the show. Shall I take us back to Spain?
Yes, please do.
Because we've got some news here of the facelifted Cupra, Formentor and Leon. I suppose the most interesting bit here is that the facelifted Leon is priced from £31,000, or just over £31,000, and Formentor is costing just under 33.5. However, Andrew, would you like to guess how much extra a first edition model?
Well, first editions are normally packed with everything and then typically have a fancy paint. So I don't know. I'm under 40,000 for the Leon. Maybe 43,000 for the Formentor.
No, you might want to go higher on both counts.
Higher? Okay. 40. No. Okay. How much is it then? Because that's beginning to become a little bit costly.
Yeah, 45,850 for the Leon and 51,790.
Wow, you
Formentor.
really want a Formentor at that price, don't you?
And it's the usual facelift, so it's got, in inverted commas here, an aggressive sharp-nosed front bumper that you probably wouldn't be able to tell any difference between the previous one. It's got some redesigned lights. It's got an illuminated badge.
Oh, goody.
Yeah, and a drifter mode as well.
Very useful on the run to Tesco's.
It should be nice and useful.
But also they're updating the inside to bring it up to date with the rest of the Volkswagen group as well. Touchscreens with backlit areas for like your climate control and stuff. That's been addressed. And also I noticed from the pictures in this Evo article, there are actual physical buttons on the steering wheel for you to press and not accidentally stroke touch button area by mistake. I think they look good cars though, but I'm not sure they're 51 and 43,000 pounds good.
So from Spain, we move to Japan.
Yes.
You have some Mitsubishi news.
Yes, they have joined another alliance. They have left, well, I think this new alliance confirms the rebel alliance of Renault, Nissan and Mitsubishi is well and truly dead. And Mitsubishi is going to join the Nissan-Honda alliance, which is focusing on EV and software development. The idea is presumed that Mitsubishi will license the EV and software side of things from Nissan and Honda, and then they'll be able to, and again, there's a lot of assumptions being made in this Autocar article, but it is presumed that Mitsubishi has the chance to fill in some gaps in both their vehicle lineups, particularly, say, Honda, who doesn't have any plug-in hybrid powertrains, or K-Trucks. That might work for them. But it goes to show there's a split in the Japanese car industry because they've gone EV completely. However, Mazda, Subaru, and Toyota have created an alliance where they're looking at combustion engine technology and trying to make that carbon neutral, either through the use of liquid hydrogen or synthetic e-fuels and biofuels. I think all car manufacturers, unfortunately, at the moment have to look at all these different possibilities because the world is not uniform. Not every market that these car companies are in or want to be in can make the same changes as they are doing in, say, America, Europe, and ever more complainingly in the UK, depending on which manufacturer it is, which seems to be most of them at the moment. But I think you have to understand, particularly when people say, well, you just go to EV. You have to understand that's not always, say, practical in, I don't know, Argentina or in somewhere in a market in certain parts of Africa or even in parts of Asia. It's just not at this moment practical to do that because of constraints of technology, infrastructure and stuff like that, and what the vehicles are used for. I think it's important to do this, whether we read into that, as some people are trying to do, oh, well, they're ignoring EVs or the other lot are ignoring internal combustion engine. I don't think it's as simple as that. I just think it's trying to collaborate because these things are costing so much money. The transition is costing so much money. If you add on top of all the other technology that, say, safety is now demanding, whether right or wrong, there's neither here nor there, but safety is demanding technology that costs eye-watering amounts to develop. All the car manufacturers are going to start sharing costs much more. I think we're going to see this a lot more across the globe, and it's only a matter of time, really, before the European manufacturers start doing the same.
Yeah. It makes sense. It makes sense to collaborate and work as a team.
Because it benefits them.
Many hands, like mate, like work, etc., etc.
Yeah, I think they've shown,
and hence why you've roped me into doing a show rather than doing it by yourself, for instance.
It is
on a really granular level.
Teamwork makes the dream work. That's what it is. Talking of which, then, collaboration and teamwork. Can you talk about Hagerty and what they did at the weekend? And to be clear, we are not going to talk about any controversy or moaning or complaining that has gone on over this, whether people feel it's justified or not. We're not interested in that. We're just going to talk about what Dan is about to talk about.
Yeah, but there are some pretty pictures of cars, and that's the main thing that we should focus on. Hagerty hosted its 10th festival of the Unexceptional over the weekend. More than 2,000 cars attended it. Good turnout.
Yeah.
And from what I saw of it on Twitter and Instagram, lots of people had a nice day.
Yes.
That is the main thing that we have to take away here. Now, here's the thing that some people may or may not agree with. And in 1982, Toyota Hilux was crowned the winner of the most unexceptional car of the lot, I suppose. Some people said, oh yeah, but strange choice, really. How is a Toyota Hilux unexceptional? Well, the point that I made to Andrew before we started recording is it depends how you define unexceptional, doesn't it? yes, okay, a Toyota Hilux is a workhorse. Perhaps it's a little more remarkable than other cars of that era.
Well, back in the day that this was on the road, we wouldn't have batted an eye at it, would we?
But it's still unexceptional compared to, I don't know, a Lamborghini Countach, for instance. It's all about nuance as ever, and of course people on Twitter don't have that because they've got 240 characters to use unless they pay for a blue check, obviously.
Yes. And it has to be noted that because some people didn't realise this because of the early reporting was incorrect, but it is a completely original, this Toyota Hilux. He's not had it restored or anything like that, although, I mean, you'd look at it and it looks stunning.
Yes.
But then so does the Renault Clio and then the Nissan Primera and as well as the Metro that are all in this article that's linked in the show notes. Just as well, I'm going to have in the show notes 3 other links to YouTube channels. So I'm linking to Steph with I Drive a Classic and her take on it. So that's about 37 minutes. Then we have Furious Driving, and that's roughly an hour and 10 minutes of the festival. And then finally, I'm linking to John Coupland Cars, where he is filming the cars turning up to the car park, which is, as we all know, with all motor shows, always go and check the car park. Well, he checked the car park before it became a car park, so that's good work. It should be noted there are a ton of excellent videos on YouTube from all host of different creators and people who aren't really creators but just wanted to share how much they enjoyed the festival. Do check them out. Do give them a support. Give them a like. Share the ones you like, because we should all support the content creators out there as much as we can. And just sharing a link or giving them a thumbs up or something like that is just a simple, easy, free thing you can do to help them out. It looked an ace day. It did look an ace day, and they had the weather. I'm so glad it wasn't raining.
Would you now like to talk about our list of the week, which also comes from Haggerty? Haggerty's got a clean sweep on my section of the podcast this week. Congratulations to Haggerty.
Doing well in points of interest again. But this one is called 13 British Cars Flawed by Flaws. Now, just to be clear, this isn't one of those particularly clickbaity ones that has an Allegro in there somewhere and then talks about how the design was changed by management at BL and things like that. It's not like that. There's actually some really interesting cars in here and some proper reasons why they had issues. Now, running through these 13, Dan, is there any in here that stand out to you more? Whether that's because you felt that flaw was so horrific or whether you actually like the car, feel free to go either end of the spectrum on that. It's up to you.
Well, if I didn't mention this car, our fellow Darl man, Stephen, will shout at me. So I'm just going to say Reliant Scimitar and leave it at that. And then after we finish recording this, I'm going to link this article to him and just say, there's a Reliant Scimitar mentioned in this. I thought of you. You might want to give some context as to what Darl and Stephen is and all of that good stuff as well.
But I will put a link out to anyone who is interested in racing on Forza Motorsport and who fancies joining a friendly league that also do occasional one-off races, not just the league racing, but it's got a huge number of people competing each week during the seasons. And is it season 3 is coming close to an end now?
Yeah, so season 3's finishing this Friday as we go out.
Okay.
And then there's going to be a bit of a break, and then we start up again season 4 in mid-September. Details to follow.
I'll put a link in the show notes to the Discord that you can join, and then you'll find out all the information in there in the various channels.
Yeah, then you can also find out who Stephen is.
Yes, you will.
And why I find the mention of the Reliant Scimitar in this article.
Yes, everyone join and ask him. So why we've been told to ask you about the Reliant Scimitar. Okay, that brings us to the and finally, Dan. Oh, do you want to tell us all about this one? It's unique.
I would like to. Yeah, so I think that you were a little surprised when I suggested this.
I was, yeah, but I like it a lot.
I don't know if you've heard of it before I even mentioned it. there is an abandoned village on the Salisbury Plain. It's called Imber. To give a very brief rundown, and perhaps you might want to put a link to Wikipedia article or something like that in the show notes about the village, but effectively just before the Second World War, when Salisbury Plain was expanded, the military went into this village called Imber and said to the residents, right, we're taking over, we need it for training area. Cut a long story short, those villagers have never returned to the village. It's still part of the area that's controlled by the MOD.
And good luck arguing with them.
Exactly. You don't want to argue with. It still retains a 13th century church, which is lovely, but apart from that, you can't really tell that a village was there. All of the houses there are sort of fakes and designed so then soldiers can hide and shoot at each other and things like that and blow up each other. But all of the classified military things that go on Salisbury Plain. However, for one day a year, there is a bus service which goes to an abandoned village. I absolutely adore this. For one day a year, there is a regular bus service from Warminster, that's the nearest town, to Imber that will run route masters, old, new, green, red, yellow. I'm sure it's yellow ones. Route masters of all varieties will be running a really intensive bus timetable to this little abandoned village so then people can look around. It's a car-free zone, so the only way that you can get to Imber is by bus. I'm not a bus person, by the way, I should say this, but it's a really interesting thing. I last did it in 2019, and it was fascinating. It was, as for some background to all of this, it was created by some bus industry people, including Peter Lord Hendy of Richmond Hill, whose name you might recognise. He was latterly Network Rail's chairman, and he's now the rail minister. He owns a Route Master bus, so I think he's probably the first transport minister to actually own a Route Master bus as well.
What, and know what transport is.
Precisely. He's a genuinely really nice bloke. He's a really, really nice bloke. Him and some friends came up with this idea in a pub one evening about where is the stupidest place that we can run an intensive bus timetable to for one day a year. Why not Imber, an abandoned village? It's just wonderful. It raises money for charity. You don't have to pre-book. You just turn up on the day, say to the bus driver, hello, can I have the Rover, please? Yes, he will say, it's £10, please. And then you can go all around Salisbury Plain to bits of it that you wouldn't normally go to, including the wonderful stop of Brazen Bottom as well.
This is happening this year on Saturday the 17th of August, so it's a couple of weekends away from when this show comes out. There is a link in the show notes to an article from Ian Visits that explains all this, but also in that article is the link to the Imber Bus website as well. This is brilliant. If you're in the area, this sounds like a fantastic thing, and it sounds so deeply British, and hearing that it was thought up in the pub just makes it even more so.
Yeah, it's absolutely wonderful. And what's also worth noting as well, and perhaps we can put this into the show notes, I did check this earlier, but obviously it's quite easy to get to Warminster by train from various parts of the country, but there is a special charter train as well, not steamhauled. It's with a Hastings DMU. There are still some tickets available. It's quite a sensible day, so it starts in Tunbridge, picks up East Croydon, London Waterloo, Woking, Basingstoke, and like I say, it starts from Tunbridge at 8 in the morning when you get back at 9:15 in the evening. The fare includes a Rover, and you get priority on the buses as well. If you want a civilised way to get to Warminster, that's the way to do it. Actually, it's worth saying as well that, I mentioned that Lord Hendy is quite a bus enthusiast. He owns a couple of Route Masters. This is real trivia corner for you here, Andrew, that he retrofitted his bus that he co-owns with a Euro 6 engine, and that was the first Route Master to be fitted with a Euro 6 diesel engine in the world.
Oh, we'll have to keep a note of that for the Immersion Podcast pub quiz.
So that happened several years ago, and he highlights it out, and I've been on some trips around London where he's driven it around London.
Excellent. Don't forget, check the show notes for the details. And I think that sort of rounds us out. Before I say goodbye, though, I'd like to say thank you to Daniel for joining me this week.
Pleasure.
I'm sure the listeners are delighted that they don't have to listen to just me whittering on. There is company. Thank you very much for joining us, Daniel. That is greatly appreciated.
That's all right, and apologies for whittering on myself.
No, that's part of the show.
Hopefully some of what I said is of you.
It will be, I am sure. Don't forget, between now and next week, you can give us any feedback and share your thoughts with the show at Motoring Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. And you can go to the contact page of motoringpodcast.com, the hub of all our activities. Remember, you can support us financially via Patreon, and please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or however your podcast app lets you do such a thing. Daniel, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Well, they can get in touch with me via the DAR Discord, which is in the show notes. If you join there, then just mention Scimitar and tag Stephen and all that good stuff. But if you don't want to go to the hassle of that, you can find me on Twitter, I suppose. I am that car geek. I don't tweet a lot, but I do monitor it. You can get in touch that way. How about yourself, Andrew?
If you want to get in touch with me, if you search for Crack Windscreen on Twitter or Mastodon, you should find me there. I'm also on LinkedIn now using my actual proper real name, like a grown-up or something. It's very disturbing.
I'm also on LinkedIn and various other social media profiles.
Well, I'll put links to all those in the show notes for you, Daniel, so people can one-click to you.
Right.
We'll be back very soon, but until then, I've been Andrew Clues.
And I've been Daniel Puddicombe.
And safe motoring.